Many different situations can cause us trouble and sorrow, disappointment, or pain. Some of them are what we might call common because every imperfect human has to deal with them. Getting sick, growing old, and grieving the death of a loved one. Other reasons for distress could be called circumstantial. Accidents, economic problems, the breakup of a marriage, natural disasters, becoming a victim of abuse or other crimes, civil unrest, and war. In addition, we may need comfort related to our worship, living in a divided household, experiencing persecution or imprisonment, facing ridicule in school or at the workplace, or perhaps a family member or a close friend leaves Jehovah. Repentant wrongdoers also need comfort when they return to the congregation. Whether the cause of our distress is common, circumstantial, or because of our worship, all of us are in need of comfort.
So full disclosure, you've just seen some of the most interesting parts of Jim Mantz's talk. And what that means is it was a very dull, playing it by the book, paint by numbers talk. It was the sort of JW Broadcasting lecture that I would give if I just wanted to avoid controversy and I didn't want to say anything unduly alarming or anything that actually might be interesting. He played it very safe, but even in just those few words, we've learned that being a Jehovah's Witness is a cause for distress. It can cause you pain. So this is not just generically about providing comfort to anybody, whether they are a believer or not. Jim Mantz just told us, he gave us a list of various situations unique to Jehovah's Witnesses, where they will uniquely feel, trouble or sorrow or distress or pain. He listed living in a divided household. What that means is a family where some are Jehovah's Witnesses and some are not Jehovah's Witnesses. They believe differently. There is persecution and imprisonment, which I've always spoken out against. It's wrong to persecute or imprison people based on what they believe. You should go after the leaders. You shouldn't go after the followers. The third one was ridicule at work or at school. It's also wrong to ridicule people based on their beliefs. The problem is that Jehovah's Witness children are sent to school and told, you should preach to your classmates. You should preach to your teacher. This is your territory. And of course, that's going to open the door for a ton of bullying, as was my personal experience. So that's a clear example of the religion itself being a cause of distress, being a cause of difficult situations that can have a profound impact on people's mental health. And then he goes on to list if a friend or a family member leaves Jehovah. So that's a cause of distress for believing Jehovah's Witnesses. When someone stops believing or when they leave for any reason, it's not just about the pain of the person who's leaving, it's about the pain of those who are having to shun them. Because shunning goes entirely against people's humanity. It really does mess people up when, especially if it's a family member, let's say a parent being asked to shun their child, of course that's going to mess them up in their minds and cause all sorts of emotional and psychological trauma. And yet that's a direct result of what the Jehovah's Witness organization expects of its members. And then you have the pain or distress that might be caused when you return to Jehovah. In other words, when you come back to Jehovah's Witnesses, you're still going to need some comfort. You're still going to need some kind of support because it's going to be a difficult transition. So straight away we're learning that it's actually quite difficult to be a Jehovah's Witness. And there are all sorts of scenarios where being a Jehovah's Witness actually makes your life harder. And part of the pain, part of the sorrow, part of the trauma that gets inflicted on Jehovah's Witnesses is due to this policy of shunning people, of treating people like they don't exist, purely because they stop believing.